to Budgets in QuickBooks Online. My name is Paula McCain, and I'm one of the Senior Business Advisors at the North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. I don't know if you realized it, today is National Calzone Day and National Cinnamon Day.
Oh,
And I believe that would make a great calzone. I'm just saying. The SBDC is a leading provider of assistance to small businesses. We are grant funded, and because of that, it allows us to offer our services at no cost. Just to let you know, this session is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, and first off, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat room, and we'll be checking that throughout the presentation. Our presenter today is Stacy Kildal. She is the founder of Kildal Services, LLC, is an internationally recognized expert in QBO. Stacy was the first QuickBooks Pro Advisor to complete the QuickBooks Online Certification Exam, as well as Intuit's Payroll Certification Exam, and is also certified as an advanced QuickBooks Pro Advisor, both desktop and online, certified Enterprise Solutions Pro Advisor, and certified QuickBooks user. Oh, wow. Okay. Stacy,
yes.
welcome.
Thank you. It's a lot of QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I want to thank all of you guys for inviting me again. I really appreciate it. I really absolutely positively love working with you guys, and I am very lucky to be able to get to present this. So I want to say thank you. So we're going to be talking about budgets, creating budgets in QuickBooks Online, specifically QuickBooks Online. However, you can do budgets using really anything, any kind of software. I mean, you could do it in a spreadsheet if you wanted. I do want to take a second just to call out the North Central Texas SBDC. I have a long history of working with small business development centers. I think they are an amazing resource for small businesses. They provide, like Paula said, they provide training at no cost to small businesses, but they also do some advisory work as well for existing and, like established as well as new small business owners. One of the things I love is that all of the services are completely confidential and they are available to all residents, specifically the North Central Texas SBDC to, I believe, it's Cook Denton, isn't it? Is it Montague? Is that how you pronounce it?
Montague.
Montague. Oh, we have stuff like that here. So we have like Ypsilanti, which doesn't look anything like you would think. And then we have a road here that's technically Losser, but everybody calls it Lasher, so I get it. And like Paula said, they partnership with the SBA, and they are grant funded, and they really are designed to work with small businesses to help small businesses survive, grow, prosper, all of that good stuff. So I just wanted to call that out. They're absolutely amazing. You can go to the website on the screen, or you can call the number and make an appointment and meet with any of the amazing counselors that are at the SBDC. My name is Stacy Kildal. I own and operate Kildal Services LLC. And I think Paula did it. I mean, she mentioned all of the QuickBooks. That's what I do. I own a bookkeeping company here in Michigan. I'm about right here, about an hour north of Detroit. We got about an inch of snow last night on Halloween, which is fairly typical. It's either going to be 90 or it's going to be snowing on Halloween, so there's not really a lot of in between. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about budgets. Why would you use a budget? What are the benefits of having a budget for your business? I'm also going to show you how to set up a budget in QBO, how to edit and work with that budget that you have created in QBO, and then whatever next steps you might need to implement working with a budget in your business. So, and this is something that your local SBDC can help you with. They can help you look and prepare these budgets. One of the things that, just kind of thinking about, are you using budgeting right now? You don't have to answer this, but and then maybe you can put it in the chat if you have a chance. And Paula, if you see something interesting, call it out. And then if you are using budgets, what might be your biggest challenge with using budgets in general? So why are we using budgets? I think it creates a really good framework. And it's not just like, especially for small business or newer businesses versus experienced or established business. I think in general, no matter what stage in the life cycle that your business is in, having a budget really creates a nice goal, a framework that your business can work towards. And it also sets expectations for the people that are working in your business as well. It allows for employee and owner as well accountability. So if you say to a salesperson, we want you to increase sales by X amount by this date. And then it also helps owners as well with that accountability, where they're able to say, okay, I want to grow my gross revenue by 13% or 40%. But they also are going to want to look at that net income as well. So maybe, I want to increase my net income by 50% over the next 2 years. How are you going to do that? And that's why we're going to use budgets. Another reason to use budgets is it really helps with cash flow, so that you can pay vendors and know what's in and stay on top of any accounts receivables that you might have. And it improves, really just, it gives a lot of intention and attention towards managing a small business. One of the examples I like to give is I work with a lot of auto repair facilities. So not necessarily collision shops, but just general automotive repair. And one of the things that we noticed early on with, they've been my client for 20 years since I opened my doors. They started their business. He started his business the same year I started mine. He was my very first client. And one of the things that we noticed with him, and it allowed us to really create budgets after the first couple of years and really kind of dial into budgeting, is the cyclical nature of his sales. What we noticed after about the third year is that we were seeing an uptick right after people were getting their tax returns. So end of April, beginning of May, that also coincides with kind of the beginning of summer. So here in Michigan, kids stay in school till usually the middle of June. And they don't go back to school usually until the Monday or the Tuesday after Labor Day. So what we were seeing is a big uptick. We were seeing kind of an increase in sales in April, and then another big uptick in towards the end of June, beginning of in July, and then another one right at the end of fall, right before Thanksgiving. And what those were related to was tax returns, getting tax refunds back. So people were filing their tax returns, and January, February, March, getting their refunds back in early April or sometime in April. And then also people getting ready to go on road trips once their kids got out of school. So we were seeing that end of June, beginning of July uptick in repairs. And then the last one, that the other little bell curve that we saw for them was right before winter, because like I mentioned, we have some snow and it can be a little sporadic. So I mean, we may have a 50-degree it might start out at 25 in the morning and you might have 70 degrees by the afternoon here. So he was seeing a lot of that. So we were able to plan for that, and not only budget, but looking at those budgets and say, okay, this is where we're going to have most of our sales. This is where our revenue is going to increase these 3 times during the year. He was also able to not budget financially, but budget his resources and be able to tell his employees, hey, if you're going to take a vacation or you're going to take any vacation time, probably August. That's a great time for you, August, end of August, also maybe October, January. So he was able to not just budget like money-wise, like revenue and expenses, but also resources. And so that's just another benefit of being able to look at budgets and make decisions for your business based on that. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about is creating budgets in QuickBooks Online. So we're using QuickBooks Online. I know there are still some businesses that are using QuickBooks Desktop, and that's great. This is specific to QBO. What we're finding, as a pro advisor, as an accounting professional, as a bookkeeper, we're finding that a lot more people are choosing online accounting software, and not so many are using desktop. I still love desktop, but we're going to be talking about QuickBooks Online. So when we're talking about budget specifically in QuickBooks Online and the budgeting feature, we're looking at 2 subscription levels. So there are 4 subscription levels in QuickBooks Online. There's Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. And the budgeting feature or module, whatever you would like to call it, is in QuickBooks Plus and Advanced Edition. So just FYI, when we're talking about that, if you have, Simple Start or Essentials, you're not going to be able to create those budgets. You're going to have to upgrade. If you don't have QuickBooks, you can always use a spreadsheet. So I made the horrendous decision of deciding to be the vice president of my kids' marching band board a few years ago when my oldest was in marching band. And I did a lot to help the treasurer because she was new, she'd never used QuickBooks. And the way that the band director did all of his budgets, it was all in spreadsheets. And so for years and years until I showed up, they had been managing all of their budgets in spreadsheets, putting it in one spreadsheet and then exporting the information from their QuickBooks Desktop to a spreadsheet. And we were able to make that, transition and pull that budget into QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to go ahead and show this to you. We have a couple slides, and I'm just going to get through some of these slides, and we'll just kind of knock this out right now. So I'm in QuickBooks Online, and let me switch over and make sure that I'm in. QuickBooks Online has 2 different views that you can look at. There's the accountant view, because I'm attached to this QuickBooks Online subscription as an accountant or accounting firm user. But I can also switch to what's called business view, and this is what most small businesses are going to look at. So I'm doing it this way so that the screens that you see are going to look more like what you would be using. This particular account happens to be a QuickBooks Online Advanced account, but like I said, you can also use this in QuickBooks Online Plus. So you might see a bunch of different features that are not available in one of the lower subscriptions. Don't worry about that. We're just going to be talking about budget. So as you can see here, I'm already in the budget page, but how I got to that was, it doesn't matter where I am. Like, let's say I just logged into QuickBooks Online and I'm at my, my dashboard or my business overview. This is where what I'm gonna see when I first log in. To get to budgets, I'm going to go to my gear icon, and then I'm going to go down here to budgeting under the tools menu. One of the things I do want to show is that with the newer versions of QuickBooks Online, we can customize this left nav bar. So if I go all the way down here and choose my menu settings, I can customize the menu and I can choose what I want to see. So I can add some bookmarks. And I can, say I want to show my budgets. I want that to show up right on my bookmarks. I want that to be there, and say save. So now what happens is, I've got my bookmarks and I have budgets right there. So rather than having the 2 clicks where it's the gear icon and then go to budgets, I can set up my my menu, my left nav here, and have a bookmark that takes me directly to the budgeting center. So in this case, we've never done any budgets. There were some budgets in here, and I deleted all of them this morning so that I could show you guys a first use situation. So this spreadsheet sync, you're probably not going to see that in QuickBooks Online Plus. I do believe spreadsheet sync is a very specific QuickBooks Advanced tool. So these are not the droids we're looking for. So just ignore the spreadsheet sync for right now. There's 2 ways that we can create a budget in QuickBooks Online. The first one is we can just click our green action button and say create budget. The other way that we can do it is if you, like my band director had for years, had a spreadsheet, had budget in a spreadsheet, you can choose to import your budget. And so what we are going to do here, there's a link where you can click find out more. This is going to open up on this side. It's going to show you all the step-by-step instructions on how to import that budget. One of the things that I do recommend if you're going to do any importing in QuickBooks Online, into QuickBooks Online, I should say, is that there's always going to be a sample. So make sure that you download this sample because that's going to show you how your file needs to be formatted. And it's going to need to be in a .csv, so a comma separated value file, so a CSV file. And then once you do that, you would just locate that budget that you have saved and then click upload. We're not going to do that. We're going to create a budget from scratch in QuickBooks Online. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create this budget, right? And it's going to say what kind of budget. The first thing is going to say is, hey, what are you doing? Are we creating a profit and loss or a balance sheet budget? I don't know that QuickBooks Online Plus, and we'll flip over to that once we get past this, is going to let you do a balance sheet budget. I'm going to be honest, in 20 years of having my business, I've never I have never seen a business do a balance sheet budget, as much as I think that a lot of them should. And a balance sheet budget would maybe be budgeting for some capital expenditures. Maybe you're buying some fixed assets. Maybe you are trying to pay down some liabilities that you have, whereas a profit and loss is going to be looking at your income, your cost of goods, and any of your operating or your overhead expenses. So it's going to be looking at your income, your revenue, and your expenses. That's the kind that we're going to create. So I want to do a P&L, and then I want to choose what year. Because this is a demo file, and I was working in it today, and I happen to know that there's quite a few transactions in for last year. We're going to create a budget for last year, or we're just going to pretend it's new. You would normally be, at this point in time, we're, November 2023. We would probably be prepping our budget for 2024. But because I know this, we have data. Actually, let's do 2023. And what we're asking here is this going to be a consolidated budget, or is this going to be a subdivided budget? And by subdivided, because we're using, because budgets are only available at Plus and advanced QBO subscriptions, those are also the subscription levels that have location tracking, class tracking, and then you can also create a budget by customer. This is really great. If maybe you're not using projects, but you can subdivide it in all those different ways. For those of you who do not have or don't know what class or location tracking is, those are just different ways to track things in QuickBooks Online. So with class tracking, I have a perfect example of a client that uses class tracking and location tracking. So it's a repair shop that I have. He has 2 different locations, and then he has multiple types of work that he does. So he has the 2 locations, so we're using location tracking. So he's got location 1, location 2, and then within each one of those locations, he has his walk-in, his regular retail walk-in customers, and then he also has contracts with the school district, with the fire department, with the police department, and so with some local public works entities. And so he wants to track that work as well. And so he can pull a P&L by location and say, what is location, A, what does their profit and loss look like versus B? And then he can even subdivide that even further and say, okay, what is the profit and loss for location A that is walk-in versus contracts, right? And so we're basically it's fleet work. Which one is more profitable? And so what's really interesting is when we started tracking this, it was completely opposite of what he thought. He was expecting his first location to really be more profitable for the walk-in work, and then his second location to be more profitable related to his contract work. And what he found is that it was completely opposite. It was much more profitable for the first location to really focus his marketing on walk-in and individuals. And then his second location, he really focused on getting more contract work. So it was really interesting. And this is why budgets are great, because you can say, okay, this is what it is, and I need to focus on this part of my business. So we're just going to do a consolidated budget, which means we're not subdividing it by any way. And so you can see here, we can, create this budget from scratch. Again, we have the link to create the budget in a spreadsheet. We're just going to create it from scratch, and we're going to say next. And so what we're looking at here is we have the period, we have all of our income accounts and our expense accounts, and you can kind of roll these up. Maybe we want to look at, we want to start looking at some of these other expenses, or we don't need to worry about other expense or other income, but let's start with our income. So we just are looking at our income. And then the next thing that we can see here is this reference data. It's going to ask you, what do you want to look at, versus where do you want the reference data to look at? Well, if we're creating a budget for this year and we have historical information, let's look at our actuals from 2022, and it's probably not going to show that. So you can see here from 2022, we have $100 in construction income. This business did $2,500. So it's showing us our actuals. So what we can do here is we can say, you know what, for next year, we want to double this. We want our design income to be $5,000, and this is for the total year. And then once I hit tab, what it's going to do is just automatically apply that evenly for every single month. Now, if I didn't want to do that, I could have deleted that out, right? And I can just, say, hey, I want to zero that out. Maybe I don't want to take that and even it out over each month. Maybe I know that in January, I'm going to do, $1,000 of design income. In February, I'm going to do 500. March, I'm going to do 500. So you can manually put in each one of the numbers for each month if you want, or you can just say, you know what? For this year, I want 4,000, and then I do want this evenly spaced out. The thing about this is, a budget is a living thing. It doesn't have to stay the same. So you can make adjustments throughout the year, throughout the year as it's happening. If you see something that's happening with your business and you think, you know what, I'm pretty sure that my labor costs are going to go down, or my labor costs are going to go up, you can come in and adjust that. Maybe I have a perfect example. Another one of my clients decided mid-year he was going to finally start offering benefits to his employees, offering some health insurance. And so we went into his budget, and we, let's say I'm looking at his expenses. We're going down here to, just insurance. We'll just call it health insurance here. And whereas last year he only spent, $447 for insurance all the way across the board, it's going to cost him probably $400 a month, right? For each one of these, it's that we think, or maybe it's going to be $1,000 a month. So now we're going from $400 for just some liability insurance to $12,000, $12,500, because we're now offering benefits. So we can put that in here because we're not looking at last year's information because things have changed. Or maybe the beginning of the year, he had this set at 500, right? And he's going to say, I'm going to carry that across. And then what happened is in June or July, he decided to start offering insurance. So now this is going up to, he's budgeting for $1,100. And what he can do is he can say, I need to copy this because my budget needs to be changed for the rest of the year. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to, do this $550, and I want to copy that over, and we'll just put in, a couple of these. This is a lot of advertising for only $86,000. This is a demo account, so just FYI. So maybe we want to change our income. We want our income to be a little bit more than $86,000. You know, maybe we go in here and we say, you know, we want our materials income or our design income. It doesn't really matter what we do. Let's do this. We want this to be $300,000. That's what we're going to budget for. And we're going to look in here and we're going to say our advertising, we're drastically cutting costs for advertising. So we're only going to spend $50,000 instead of $200,000. You know, our fuel, we want to, you know, that's probably going to go up. Gas prices generally don't stay the same. They have a tendency to continue to rise. I'll never forget the week before I turned 16, gas went above, it went to $1. And I was very angry that it had been like 98 cents and then it went to $1 and I was so bummed. So we're going to put in just some numbers. I'm just making them up so you can see how this works. The other thing that you can do is you can choose to edit this in a spreadsheet if you want to. The other thing that I want to point out is that you can look at this yearly and just put one number in. You can look at this quarterly if you would like. So if you don't want to see it monthly, I am a big fan of doing it monthly because, especially for my clients that have that, you know, that sort of ebb and flow with their revenue, I want to make sure that we account for that and what's happening with those. Perfect example is the band, right? They get all of their income in September with all the dues that are coming in from all the kids. And then they have a couple spikes, a couple different months throughout the band season where they're doing some fundraisers. And so we like to look at things monthly. You can do it however you'd like. We have this little gear icon here where we can turn off the autosave. We can also hide empty rows. I'm a big fan of that. So once we hide the empty rows and we click apply, anything that didn't have fees or doesn't have, so you can see other income here. These had numbers in them from last year. Any account that didn't have transactions posted to it in your reference data it'll be eliminated when you choose to hide those 0 rows. And then you can choose to have it be compact or not compact. So then once we're done, we're just going to go ahead and click save. And what's really kind of neat about this is it was extremely easy. Thank you, Intuit, for asking. So my budget is now saved. I can go here and say save and close. So when I'm going back to my budget center, you can see here's my budget for this year, right? What's really neat about this is I can go choose and create a completely new one. I can do it for the same fiscal year, all of the same information. I'm going to click next. I'm going to give this, I want to look at my actuals from this year. So we're going to choose different reference. So my numbers are a little bit different. You can see my income, my expenses, a little bit better this year than last year, right? So I can go in and I can say, you know what, I want to change this. You know, there's only 2 months left, so maybe 260, you know, we'll say, you know, 1,800 for the year. We'll call this 1,600 or 16,000 because it's November. We're almost at the end of the year. We don't have any reimbursement income. So that's what I want to do here. Let's go over to my gear icon and hide those empty rows and say apply, right? So my cost of goods, 9,600 bucks, right? So I can go into my cost of goods. I don't know why it's being weird like that. My demo account, there, apply that. Okay, so now I can go into my reimbursable income. Probably not going to get much more for the next month and a half or 2 months. We'll say, you know, maybe $4,100 if I could type today. So I'm just putting numbers in based off what I have, my cost of goods, maybe, you know, $4,000. Job expenses, we've got, you know, 57. And permits. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to go and save and close. So what I've done is I have the first one that I did based on last year's numbers. And now I have this budget, the second one that I created, that is based on this year's number. What I can do with this is I can view and edit this budget if I need to. I can rename it. I can, there's my fiscal period. I can type in here, this is, oh, it won't let me change the name. All right. Well, I guess we can't do that anymore. We used to be able to change the name. So I guess we're not going to be able to do that. So now we've got our budgets created. When we're looking at our budget center, one of the things that we can do is we have this drop down. We can like view and edit. We can archive it. We can duplicate it. We can get rid of it completely and duplicate it or delete it. One of the things that we can do from here is we can run a budget versus actual report. This is exactly what it says, and we can look at this. So this by default is going to show this, it's saying, look, by month, here's our actual numbers for this year versus what we budgeted, and where are we over budget. One of the things that we can do here is we can collapse it if we need to, make it a little bit easier to look at. And with this, we can do some customization if we want to, right? So we can say, I want to see the percent over. We can add some columns that say, the dollar amount remaining. Maybe we don't need to look at the percentage. We just want to look at the numbers. And then one of the things that we can do is we can show the grid not in months, but just either in quarters or in total. So let's just look at the year so far, and then we'll run that report. So for this year, for the whole year, and it's looking at our budget through December, it's going to say our actual income was $17,250, and we budgeted for 18, a little over 18. So we are not over budget. We are at this point short. So we want to make sure that between now and the end of the year, we make at least, $810 so that we can hit what we've budgeted for. And then you can do that also with all of the expenses and see where you are. We didn't enter any expenses in for any of these. We just did our cost of goods. Right now we're good on our cost of goods, but our job expenses, I don't know what the difference is. Again, demo account. I would have these as one account, but that's just me. So overall, our gross profit here, our total cost of goods, we're still under budget a little bit, and that's good. And you can make all sorts of choices while looking at these. If we go back to our report list, and we just start typing in budgets, you can see there's really only 2 reports in QuickBooks that are canned, and that's budget versus actual. And then what we have is a budget overview, which is basically just your budget, a report that shows you what the budget is. One of the things that you can do if you need to manipulate the data a little bit more is you can click on this and you can choose to export this to Excel if you're using QuickBooks Online Plus. With Advanced, we also have the option to export to Google Sheets. I do want to flip over to a QuickBooks Online Plus account so you can see how it just looks a little bit different. There's not a lot of clients that I don't have any clients out of my 50 that are using QuickBooks Online Advanced. So we're in our QuickBooks Online Plus, and again, this is the second highest subscription level in QuickBooks. If we click on our gear icon and we go over to our budgeting, we'll see if we have any. So we have here, we have a couple, right? We've got last year, we've got this year. So let's run that budget versus actual and see where we are. So if we look at this, here's our actual budget. This is doing great. This company is doing fabulous. They're way over budget. They're $50,000 over the budget. Their costs of good, the actual is not so great with the expense, with the expenses, the actuals here, or I should say they're not doing great because they're under budget, right? So they budgeted for 50,000 and they've only made 394. We can go back to our budgets and we can create a new one. So let's create a new one in Plus. It looks very similar. We're just going to go ahead and click next. And it's the same situation, right? It looks exactly the same. And you would just create that. And we can say, you know what, let's look at from last year, right? Or maybe we're looking at this for next year and we want to look at our actuals for this year. So not great, our income's not great. And so we can, take this and do the same thing that we did. I'm not going to bother doing that. But you get the gist of it, right? You can create the budgets in either QuickBooks Plus or Advanced. And like I said, they're very, very much a living thing. I'm a big fan of reviewing budgets versus actual and then making changes as you need to. Maybe there's some big unexpected cost, that you weren't expecting that's coming down coming in the future, that you need to budget for. That's what these are for. And you can keep your existing budget and you can just create an extra budget if you need to. And you can create multiple budgets for a year to kind of do what if situations, because you can also go in and delete those. So if we go in here, I can say, I want to delete this one. And it's going to say, hey, like you can get rid of it. So I am a big fan of using the budgets as what if situations, like I said, because you can create more than one for whatever fiscal year. The biggest limitations that I see with budgets in QuickBooks Online is it doesn't span a fiscal year. So if you have projects that are going to, like you start a project now, you're not going to put that in a budget. You're gonna use the projects feature that's in Plus and Advance, and create like an estimated costs and revenue for that project. And then what you're going to have to do is create the budget for this year that includes that project, and then create another budget for the next fiscal year that includes the remainder of that budget. So you can't really create budgets in QBO that span multiple fiscal years. You have to create one for each one. This is just kind of talking about, revenue, income only budget, and compares to the actuals. And then again, you're really probably going to be comparing those budgets versus actuals to months or quarters. And then you can really add expenses to get a more realistic picture of what's going on. This is just showing you how to, some of those functions that we just talked about, where we're going to go to manage them, how they can be added. So again, we can do them for specific purposes. Maybe you want to create a budget that's like, well, what if we add a new product line or a service line? What would that look like? What do we expect our revenue and our expenses related to that new offering be? That's one of the things. You can also do budgets for a specific customer, like I said. So there's a lot of different ways that you can customize those. Like I said, there's only really two reports, the budget versus actual and the budget overview. The subdivided budget reports, that's really if you're creating a subdivided budget in the first place. You're going to get a budget by class. If you're creating budget, by class or location, that's what that subdivided budget report is speaking about. Next steps, think about before you start creating a budget, what you want to do is, what is your goal with the budget? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to, estimate what your costs or set goals? Are you looking at what's going to happen? How is this going to change my net income? My bottom line, if we, cut these costs, or we really make a push to start selling this product or this service. Are you budgeting for paying off loans? That's where the budget sheet or the budget by balance sheet really comes in, where you can say, you know what, I've got, $20,000 in credit card debt. I want a budget for paying that down. And how am I going to do that? And then again, start really simply. You can start very simple by saying, you know what, I just want to look at last year, and then take a look at this year and do just a simple budget based on what I did last year. Or what am I doing this year? Maybe I can do a budget because it's November, we've got November and December. Maybe you can just do a budget and say, hey, let's look at the last 2 months, or let's look at what did we do last year by at this time of year, and just do the budget for the last couple months of the year. And then make sure that you're reviewing it. Once you create a budget, it doesn't do any good if nobody's looking at it. So you want to make sure that you're reviewing it once a month, at least once a quarter. And again, like it's not set in stone. You can always edit that. You can keep that one there, make a copy and tweak it to do all of those what if situations. I'm a big fan of that. The fact that in QuickBooks Online, we can create multiple budgets for a specific fiscal year. It's one of my favorite things. I'm a big fan of what if situations with my clients. And that's kind of it. This was a pretty short webinar. Do you guys, are there any questions?
I have a couple.
Okay.
If anybody has a question, please just unmute yourself and ask Stacy. How different is QBO from desktop when it comes to setting budgets?
So, I mean, obviously the interface is different. The basics are there. It may have changed. I'm going to be honest. I haven't done a budget in desktop in a while, but I do believe historically you've only been able to create one budget per fiscal year in desktop. They may have changed that in this year or last year's version in 23 or 24. But I think that's probably the biggest difference. The aside from the interface, it looks the same. You can still subdivide by class, by customer. The only thing is that QuickBooks Desktop, the other thing I should say is QuickBooks Desktop does not have location tracking. So you wouldn't, if you're using location tracking in QBO and you're moving to desktop, which I don't know anybody that really does that. So it just doesn't have location tracking, but it pretty much functions, the same.
Okay. Okay, whenever you're going in and you're inputting the expenses and everything, my mind goes back to the chart of accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know it's critical to have everything the way it needs to be in the chart of accounts. So you would just put in all of your regular expenses and income and everything where they need to be. And then the chart of accounts just pulls it over to the right bucket. And
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to want to make sure before you're doing anything that you have a chart of accounts that's meaningful. I know a lot of tax preparers that I've worked with over the years who want a chart of accounts that's going to make it easier to do the tax return, but that doesn't always translate into what's easier or beneficial for the client. So as a small business owner, I really suggest pushing back and telling your tax preparer, I know that that makes sense for you, but this is what I need to make decisions about my business. So you always want to make sure that you have that chart of accounts that is meaningful, that gives you information that's important to you. And then as you're entering transactions, you definitely want to make sure that you have those transactions posted to their correct account, because you're going to take those, if you're using previous data, that needs to flow into the chart of accounts that you're creating. I hope that's what you're asking?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Stacy, if I
Yeah.
could, this is Brett. Just a quick question. You were separating it out in projects at one point there. And I would love to know just a little more about how that works, but mostly I was thinking about for some small businesses that, for example, have, like you were saying, a new product, or they want to create something and evaluate what the budget would be and how many of them they'd have to sell to even break even just on that one idea or concept. For example, a remodeler that says, oh, tiny homes are the cool new thing. And they say, well, how much would it take to build a tiny home, even though they only do remodeling? Should they mix all that, or would that be a good opportunity to use a project like that?
So for budgeting, I think that would be a really good example. And so projects in QuickBooks Online is very specifically related to, it's a feature that is very specific to customers where, let's say you are a builder and you do remods and you are doing a kitchen remod. So you'd have the customer, maybe Brett, my customer is Brett, and the project that we're working on, you're going to create a project. That's going to be different than budgets in QuickBooks. So looking at your project of your remod, they can say, I think I'm going to estimate what my cost and what my revenue for this project is going to be. I don't generally use budgets for that. I use projects because that's what that feature in QBO is for. But what you're mentioning is like, okay, so I know historically I've been doing, I'm a contractor. Historically, I've been doing remods. I do, basement remods and bathrooms and kitchens and all that stuff, but I want to start doing tiny homes. So what you could do is you could create a class or a location in QuickBooks if you wanted that is tiny homes, right? That's the tiny homes. And so you don't necessarily have to create accounts like an income account, a specific income account, an expense account. You can still use your same chart of accounts, but now you can add this class and this class tracking that says, okay, all of these expenses, and we're not going to subdivide it by customer because we're not interested in that. We just want to know if doing this type of work is going to be profitable.
Yeah, you're getting it. Exactly. Go.
You can create a class in there that, so every time you create, say, an expense, right? So if I'm going in here and I'm going to say that I paid, oh boy, Dorothy's Bornak. I love my Golden Girls. And we're going to say that we're going to post this to cost of goods, right? I'm going to say this is my cost of goods, and this is going to be, shingles for tiny houses. And maybe I'm spending $100. I can go in here and create a class, and I can call this, I can call this tiny homes. And I can create a new class and say, there you go. So I've got $100 in expenses, and we want to make sure this is today's date, save and close, right? So to show this, now I can go in here and I can create a new budget, and I can say, I do want to subdivide this. I want to subdivide it by class, and I want this budget to be for tiny homes.
Ah,
right?
I like how you did that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I know stuff. This is a great question, by the way. This is super fun. And so now I'm going to say next, and I'm going to say this is for this year. Now, if I look, I don't have any income yet, right? Because I've only created the one transaction. So the only thing I have in my any of the transactions on my P&L is I have $100. And so I can say, you know what? I've got this, but next year it's really going to explode. We're really going to push this. So I may change this and say, you know what? I want this to be for next year. I don't need to look at this $100. I can now say, you know what? For my income, I want to do $500,000 in sales in tiny homes, right?
Mhm.
And I think my cost of goods is going to be, hopefully it'll be cheap, right? My $75,000 in cost of goods. We don't have one here because technically this business sells churros and burros, hence the name. But let's say we've got, a cost of labor account, or we've got one here that is, I don't have any labor. We'll just pretend, and we'll just say the other expense that we expect to have is,
Yeah, we'll just pick that one. That's fine. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and so now we can say, okay, for next year, here's my budget. So I'm going to save this budget. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go over here to my reports, and I'm going to say, I want to look at my budget overview. I want this to be for next year, and I want to look at this one, and this is my budget for my tiny homes next year. I want to do $500,000 in sales. I want to have no more than 125 grand in costs. When I'm done, I want to have $375,000 at the end of the year in my pocket just doing tiny homes. So that's how you can say, okay, this is this new product, this is new service. you can do the class tracking. That's how I would do it,
I like that.
is create a
Thank you.
class for it. And then move on from there. You could also, if you wanted, you could create specific accounts for that, like tiny home income revenue, tiny home labor. I'm not a fan of that because I always want my chart of accounts to be as compact as possible. So I think my regular revenue account, QuickBooks, is really great in the way that it has different ways to track income and expenses, like class tracking. So I think this is the way I would do it, to answer your question. That was fun.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. That was a way better explanation than what I was looking for. You actually walked us through it. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was great. That was a super fun question.
And it creates that document so that there's not all of the confusion of your annual budget for your, it's talking about that particular project.
Yep. Like
I
that's the kind of
like
revenue.
that.
And you could even do like, you could create another class called, remods, so that you can separate and you can say, okay, my budget for doing the remods is this. And then we're also going to start doing tiny homes. Maybe because you do remods, maybe you are doing, I don't know, you could do kind of anything. Maybe you're doing, custom camper remodeling, or customization or something like that. You could add for every new kind of service or product offering, you can create a new class for that, and then subdivide and create budgets for that moving forward.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's super fun. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any.
All right.
So if any come up, please feel free to unmute yourself and
Oops. I'm gonna leave it here. I do want to take a second to shout out, like give you guys another shout out and make sure that people are really reaching out. There are so many resources available at your local SBDC, and you guys are all amazing to work with.
well, thank you very much. We always enjoy having you help us with QuickBooks. We do appreciate everything that you share with us.
Well, I appreciate you asking. And I can't believe none of my cats showed up today.
They didn't, did they?
They're usually very nosy, so.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you do for us. Just want to share the upcoming webinars. We've got quite a few. It's going to be a busy month with the holiday and everything. So Stacy's going to be back, and we're welcoming a new presenter, Ashley Smalley, actually tomorrow. So just want to say you can use that QR code up there at the upper corner to register for any of the webinars. It'll take you right to our website where you can also get contact information. You can schedule an appointment with an advisor, or you can find other resources that we have there for small business owners. As I mentioned earlier, we are grant funded, and we would like to thank the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College for allowing us to be able to share with our small business community. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Join us tomorrow for Unity, Leading Toward Unity with Ashley Smalley. And this will end the webinar. Thanks so much. See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.